Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. I'm going to be unboxing today Feudum. This game was created by Mark Swanson and published by Oddbird. I'm really excited to show you guys the inside of this, mainly from a solo perspective, and one thing that I need to make as a disclaimer right off the top: if you pick up Feudum, the base game, in retail or anywhere else, you are not going to be able to play this one solo out of the gates. You must pick up the Queen's Army expansion, which came from a recent Kickstarter, which has already delivered. And I do have that expansion here, and we'll be showing you guys the inside of that as well if you're interested. The other cool thing to note is that there should be another Kickstarter coming out down the lane here in 2019 for Feudum, adding more content to the game or fleshing it out in a different way. So I don't know the details fully on it just yet, as I've heard whispers and been reading some things on Board Game Geek, but I'm excited to see what's going to come out of the gates for Feudum. This is one of the more beautiful productions, honestly, artwork-wise, of 2018, and if I had done a top 10 for that, this would certainly be in the running, if not be up there as the winner. It's a beautiful production. Now, another thing you might be wondering is, you guys might have noticed that this particular game was an honorable mention in my top 10 solo board games of 2018. And you might be wondering, well, how the heck are you doing an unboxing of that if you have already put it in your honorable mentions? And am I warping through time and space right now? No, you are not. This actual copy is different than the one that I currently actually have. This is a more fancy Kickstarter edition version of Feudum and has foil writing in the title and everything. So there might be some things in here that are only included in the Kickstarter, but there's not a ton, so you're not missing out on major pieces of content and things like that. But they are out in the wild in terms of different versions for Feudum, and the one I currently have off screen here has gotten play. This one's going to be a fresh copy that has never been touched, so the great thing is you guys will be able to see what's inside the box, what does it look like without my greasy paws all over it. So without further ado, let's crack this thing open. The goal of this video is to show you exactly what you can expect to get inside of Feudum, but again, do your research on what's included in this version of Feudum versus the retail one, because there will be some differences. So here is a good example of the foil here on the lettering on the actual game box. Now again, if you're getting the retail version, that foil doesn't exist. This is again kind of special for the people that back the Kickstarter and things like that. But again, minor. Well, a lot of those tweaks don't impact gameplay. They're just to kind of spice it up, make the game look a little more fancy. One other thing to note, guys, is this is a heavyweight Euro for sure. If you're playing this in a multiplayer capacity, you're looking at about an hour-long teach to get everyone around the table up to speed. Now, if you're playing this solo, it'll be much less because you're actually gathering up the rules yourself and committing to understanding them by yourself. So there's less time of kind of getting everyone on the same page. So you can knock that down quite a bit if you're playing solo, and you do need the Queen's Army, as I mentioned, to do that. So there is going to be a barrier to entry on just learning the rules, but there's a lot of really great rules videos out there or playthroughs for Feudum if you want to check it out to see if this is your cup of tea. Very different than a lot of things on the channel that I have done to this point. Have not been in the super heavy Euro department, and I'd consider Feudum to be in that medium to heavyweight Euro range for sure. Especially if you've never actually played a Euro at all, then it's definitely going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but it is a beautiful game and a really cool system, how it all blends together. So that is pretty much all I want to talk about in terms of the game itself. I've got the box off. You can see the foil there in the title. How about we remove that out of the way and dive into the components? So the very first thing you're going to see off the top here is the Feudum book. There's actually quite a few of them, and the reason for that is because there's a whole bunch of different language books inside of this. So you're not going to need all of these, of course. If you speak English, you can pretty much toss a majority of these, but you've got different languages here, and the only one that you really need to worry about is the one that relates to you. And for me, that's going to be the English version. So I'm just going to quickly flip open the rule book and show you guys roughly how big this thing is. It actually comes in at 23 pages, which doesn't sound that daunting, but I can tell you that the rules in this one are quite a bit in terms of getting your head around the game. So there's a lot of interesting mechanics within Feudum that would take me a lot longer than an unboxing video to explain to you. So I simply just want to show you the layout of the book so you can get a good idea as to how they've laid out the rules. And 23 pages or so of rules. Now you'd have to learn this game along with the Queen's Army in order to fully understand it. So that's the rule book. Next, we're going to jump into a bunch of other tokens. So again, I could go for hours on what each of these tokens means, but I'll just bore you to death. So instead, I'll just show you them nice up close. You can see exactly what they look like. So you got a bunch of different items there. Some of them are related to players, money, all that kind of good stuff. Just want to let you know the quality on some of these are really, really good. So I believe in this particular edition. I might have different, some of the special upgrades, I believe, from the retail to the Kickstarter version. We're making some of these tiles a little bit more impressive in terms of their presentation. But even just the cardboard tokens alone are really nice, and they look really pretty. So here is one sheet of cardboard, and you'll notice that this is not a thin piece of cardboard as usually tokens are. This is actually probably twice as thick, or maybe 3 times as thick. And right here we have a fancy epoch marker, which is really cool, like a custom Kickstarter item. And now we get to the game board, and I can tell you guys right now the game board is absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna lay this thing out on the table so you guys can see it in all its glory. All right, so here is a really good view of the left-hand side of the game board. So this gives you an idea of what the artwork looks like. This is just the left-hand portion. There's still like a central portion of this board and a far right. It's a very long and narrow board. So what's really cool about that, though, is if you are playing with multiple people, everyone's definitely going to be within, have a portion of the board in front of them. It certainly takes up quite a bit of table space left to right, but it's not very tall. It's not a wide board by any means. The guilds and things like that are going to be on the sides, and basically they run off each other. That's kind of how the game works. It has an economy that's really cool, so some things that happen in one guild are going to trickle and have an effect into the next one that's beside it, and they all kind of wrap around the board in that way. There's 3 on this side, there's 3 on the other side. Not going to get into specifics here. Let's just zoom in on some of the artwork. I can show you how absolutely gorgeous this game really is. So here is one section of the game board, a little bit more zoomed in. You'll see there actually faintly that you've got yourself trails of bubbles. So again, if you're in like a submarine, you're going to follow the trail of bubbles in terms of where you can go in the land. You also have trails of birds that you can basically travel across if you're in the air. So that's how they've really done a great job of keeping the theme of the board more of a presentation of the art, and then making the mechanics work within that art, which I think is really interesting, because typically in most games in this type of capacity you'd see dots or something that's just completely generic. But what they've done is they've integrated the art of the actual game into the mechanics of the game, which just makes it even cooler than you'd expect. Here's another section of the board here, has the sun coming up over the hills. Of course, you're going to use some of the actual beams of light of the different shades of color coming across there as different representations of where the epoch marker is going to be moving across. And that's another cool thing. Again, they've always implemented that art within the mechanisms. Is really interesting. What I want to do is I'm going to zoom in on a couple spaces so you can actually see some of the fine little graphics that they've put in against these spots on the board, these kind of washed out watermarked circles. So here's a zoomed in spot here at the very top of the map, and you can see here there's even like an icon or symbols right there within the artwork that actually have a gameplay impact. And here's a quick overhead shot of the central part of the board, so I'll just let you guys take that in. Again, a very beautiful presentation. Looks really warm and inviting. I'm a huge fan of the artistic style of this one. And again, you'll notice that the birds are even all the way flocking along here. Like the path continues off into the mountain region over here on the far right. Lots of places to spread out throughout Feudum. And then eventually you get all the way to the other side of the board where there's another 3 different guilds. And again, like I said before, these 3 guilds are in order for a reason, and they wrap around and have impacts on the opposite side. They all do different things here. The back of the actual game board is beautiful, and it's kind of hilarious because literally it doesn't matter if you're looking at the front or the back. The game production is just amazing. So you'll see here that we've got like a tinge of green, and it kind of heads into this reddish purple kind of color, and it's also pink too. And then as you move the game board along here, you'll see that that color and the shade of the color of the back of the game board changes, and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. It's really cool. They went to a lot of effort to really make this thing flashy. Now the funny thing is a lot of people aren't going to see the back of this game board, but it just shows how much care they put into the presentation of this particular game. And this is what the game board looks like when it's all fully bundled up. It's 4 panels, and this is what it looks like when they're all put together and it's ready to go back in the box. All right, so now we're going to dive into the game box here, and you can see, of course, you got the insert of the game box showing off some game art. You got a couple bags, which may or may not be Kickstarter exclusive, so don't quote me on that one. There's going to be other Kickstarter stuff in here, like, for instance, they actually included in this version of the one I'm opening here, somebody else's copy, that this particular expansion here for squirrels, and yes, it's like a squirrels expansion, essentially, with some other stuff included as well, basically comes inside of this game box, but you don't miss out on it if you pick up the retail version. You can still still get this Squirrels expansion separately as well. So that's the other cool thing, is that they allowed the backers to get a couple upgrades within the game box, some extra expansions thrown in, but the retail individuals can still pick up those expansions. You're not missing major game content. If anything, it's mostly tokens and things like that that have been upgraded to make the game look cooler. Like most typical Kickstarters, it's about the component upgrades. So you got a whole bunch of little component upgrades. There is an actual set of 2 trees in here. One's large and one's small, and they're really, really cool because they're going to add to the game, and they mix in with the game board so beautifully because the artwork's so nice. So it just looks really nice, and it kind of gives it a nice 3D effect popping it on the board. Here, for instance, is going to represent a changeover of some of the tokens into kind of plastic tokens, or tokens that have a little more weight. So that's really cool. So these are going to have, some of them are beads and things like that. Really, really interesting. It basically just bumps up the tokens. Again, this is definitely Kickstarter type stuff here. You got coins. Of course, something like this wouldn't come in the retail edition, but it does in this Kickstarter edition. You get actual coins for Feudum, which I think is extremely cool. These are the 2 coins, the 2 different values of coins anyway that come in the game. So very, very cool. Again, this is like Kickstarter stuff, but just really cool. So I'm sure if you were really trying to gun to find these coins and stuff like that, you might be able to still, but these wouldn't come in the retail version. You saw actually when I pulled out my first set of cardboard that they actually had coins on them as well. So don't worry, you definitely get everything you need to play the game, but if the Kickstarter version spices things up a bit more. You also get some extra things here Kickstarter wise, like extra tokens that represent different things in the game, kind of take their place. This is a really, really cool king here sitting on his throne. You've got kind of a serpent creature, as well as this actually, these guys are really, really cool. So these are actual creatures that you can actually obtain in the world of Feudum and essentially control or use them, which is really interesting. And they're really they look really cool, and they also pop out in the world really awesome when they show up. Again, this guy here would of course show up in the water regions. This guy's here going to be running around in the mountains. Very, very cool. You're going to find tons of wooden cubes and stuff like that. This entire bag here is just full of different color cubes because it is a Euro, and there's dice actually in the game as well, but they're used differently than regular dice. So I won't go into explaining that, but they're essentially used for the multiple sides more so than rolling them all the time. And then you got other little Kickstarter bump ups, like these are the tiles I was talking about. So those tiles we saw at the beginning of the game in the thick cardboard. Here is these tiles recreated basically with kind of a thicker and more visually appealing look to them. So there's no point in really going through all of those because most of that stuff in the retail version will just be the standard. But really the game is beautiful enough as it is. It doesn't need all the Kickstarter edition or extras to make it awesome. So moving right along here, we've already talked about this particular squirrel expansion that gets included in the game as well. This particular copy that I borrowed to do this unboxing for has sleeve cards, so I might as well go ahead here and show you the cards so that you get a feel of what it looks like. So now we'll take a closer look at some of the cool cards that came in the Kickstarter. Again, they have nice foil all over those cards because these are really special. They're really nice actually, so even when they're sleeved, they just look amazing. They shine. Look really interesting, and add a whole bunch to the game as well. But those are not part of the retail edition. And again, if the new Kickstarter comes out down the line here, there might be a possibility to get kind of those old things again if they go down that road. That would be interesting to see. Then we've got the large deck of cards, which is what you'd expect to get in the retail version, which is basically going to have, the backs are going to have representations from all the different guilds in the game and things like that. So that's really, really cool. You can kind of go through all of them. There's different colors for each of the different guilds and things like that. Flip them over, and this is basically what the cards look like. They're really unique because when you look at them, you're going to be like, what is that? What does that even mean? This is kind of a Euro to the truest form in terms of just looking at it and not understanding what that actually means. But once you read the rule book and get a handle on the iconography of the game and the icons and symbols you see, things start to click. And once they do, it really is a beautiful thing. I'm not going to explain it here because it could take a bit, but that's kind of where that learning curve comes in, is trying to learn these symbols and what does it mean if the symbol's in the middle of the card versus up here, or what if the page is flipped over like this? What does that mean? So many different things to kind of grasp here. but I can tell you it is a very cool experience. All right, now I don't know if I've already mentioned this or not, but we have a bunch of extra baggies, of course, to organize this game. So when the individual that lent me this one goes ahead to organize this monster, then those Ziplocs will come in handy. And there's an extra one actually sitting right here as well. That's wonderful. So you got a whole bunch of other tiles here, cardboard references and things like this. So this again is going to be another learning situation. But you might think that there's a lot, but really it's a language thing again. So every single one of these is going to be doubled or tripled up because of the language. So you're only going to need to find the language that you're actually using, and the rest are not going to have any value for you. So there's really not as many as you think, and there's one for every player. So it's going to actually show you the full round of play, the attack and defense, the good summary, and then again a bunch of this is actually going to explain to you what each of those cards do, the cards that we were looking at earlier, and how they actually work in the game of Feudum. If you flip it over to the other side, it's talking about different things that happen. So there's scoring that actually happens in the game the second it happens. There's some scores that happen at the dawn of epochs and some that happen at the end of the game. Here's your trade, pull, and push. That's another thing I never mentioned, but I didn't really want to get into specifics. But pulling and pushing is one of the biggest things or mechanics of this game. A lot of it is give and take, that type of thing. And it really has a reflection on the world and the economy of the world. Things really change based on that give and or pull and push, essentially. So, and then you get to the very bottom of the box, you got some lovely artwork as well there. So again, very thematic, great presentation all around. Really, really happy with this one, and definitely deserved to be on my top 10 solo board games from 2018 as an honorable mention. So thank you guys so much for watching this. I also want to show you in this video the Queen's Army expansion. So this is going to be kind of a doubled up unboxing video. Now we're going to move into the Queen's Army unboxing. All right, and now we're actually moving into the expansion that actually adds solo play into Feudum. This is the expansion you need in order to be able to play Feudum solo. It's called the Queen's Army. It is just as beautiful a box as the actual core game box as well, and has that wonderful foil kind of going onto the artwork as well. So the whole horse there basically is all foiled up. Looks fantastic when the light hits it the right way. So let's go ahead and crack this box open and see what's inside. All right, and now the box lid is off, and we can see right here that we're moving into the rule book, which again, very much like the original core game, has multiple of them, all with different languages. So, of course, you'll only need to really focus on one of them. And you'll also notice here that it says a singularly savage solo variant. Pretty awesome, eh? So again, we'll open this up to see actually what it looks like inside. So the rule book again follows a very similar pattern to the original core game. And here are all the different automa actions that are happening. So again, it's automated very similar to Scythe, where basically you'll be pulling cards and there's automation going on, and you'll have to learn what each of these cards do. And some of them do harvest or taxing or conquering or improving, they're influencing, all that good stuff. And you've got yourself not many pages to consume, thankfully, only 7 pages to get yourself up to speed on this one, and alternate actions on the back. So once you've read that fully through, you basically have the gist of the solo expansion. Next, we're going to move into what appears to be a neoprene mat. And here is a nice close-up of the neoprene mat, which also comes inside of the Queen's Army expansion. Again, super exciting to see them put this level of production against a solo expansion. Really, really nice. Shows that there was a lot of care and consideration when putting it together. Not going to explain the intricacies of how this actually works here, because this is an unboxing video, but wanted to show you the visual aspects of it. So you can see here there's different areas here for marked cards. You've also got yourself some shadowed in areas, and of course the beautiful Feudum or epoch kind of glow of the sunset basically in the background there, which is really, really nice. Okay, so now we're going to dive back into the game box, take more of a closer look at the components. So here are some of the cubes or dice, however you want to really call these things. But again, the mechanics in the game, they use these things differently than you'd expect. Won't go into that here, but I want to give you a nice close-up shot of them. Again, they have 6 sides, and they have different representations of icons on them that mean different things, but these are specific to the solo variant, which is cool. The other thing I noticed, guys, was that my actual horse here that came inside of this particular one has some legs that are broken. Now, that's not a big deal for me. Looks like it probably just got bunched up against something inside of this box and they busted off, but because I'm all about miniatures, I already have glue. This will take literally 2 seconds. It looks like it's a clean break, so I should be able to glue those on without any problems. The actual miniature itself, besides the legs being shattered off of it, are pretty nice. So again, it has a little bit of a lack of the front section. We see the brakes are very clean, so I should very easily be able to get those on there. And it's got some nice weight. It's heavy and looks really nice. That'll pop really nicely on the game board. We've got dice here, or dice. These are cards. That tells you how tired I am. And there is a bunch of cards we can go through here. We also have a wonderful tile that has already been pre-punched, and we have some baggies to keep things organized, as well as some other tokens. And one of those tokens has been punched out already. So there you go. Of course, the baggies are going to help with organization, which is always nice. Ooh, what is this? I forget what that is, actually. So that is a pretty solid gold plate. Ah, man, I'm drawing a blank as to what that is again. It's been a bit since I've actually played this with the Queen's Army. And again, this version here I'm unboxing is not my copy, which is why everything's new, except the poor horse's legs are shattered. We're going to have to get that figured out. And then it also comes with a card, which is cool. So I guess there's one additional card to go into the experience. And that is literally everything inside of the box, except for taking a closer look at these cards here. All right, and I wanted to show you guys the card deck that comes inside of the Queen's Army, and you can see the UV spotting is absolutely beautiful. Makes the backs look real fancy when the light hits it. Here are the front of the cards. Again, they're going to follow the similar artwork as to the core game, but again, these are all specific to the Queen's Army and the solo experience that it brings. So really, really cool. Some of you guys might be familiar with this game. If you actually have played Feudum in the Queen's Army like I have before, let me know in the comments below. What did you think of it? How difficult is it? Did you do well? Did it take you a while to win? Were you successful right out of the gates? That type of thing. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. This definitely, in my opinion, deserved to be on the honorable mentions for 2018. But the reason it stayed off the top 10 was mainly the barrier to entry. I think that for the typical person that isn't a hardcore hobbyist or hardcore Euro gamer, this one might be a little bit on the heavy side to consume. But if you're looking for a challenge, and like I love to have, that's all what I'm all about is challenges. I love having something to try to conquer and defeat, whether even if it's a rule book. And Feudum kind of fits that bill. It's a beast, but it's a beautiful beast. And once you learn how to play it, it's fantastic. So I really enjoyed the solo experience they added in. I'm excited for any future content that comes. But I did want to let you guys know at the beginning of the whole unboxing here that if you're looking at it going, well, this looks like it's the same realm of the stuff that Adam has unboxed in the past, let it be known that this one is of a heavier weight, so there will be a learning curve. It's not going to be one that's going to come off the table, or I should say come off the shelf and be a quick learn. You're not going to figure this one out within the first 30 minutes. You're going to have to take some time to read the rule book and understand the actual system that's built within Feudum. But once you do, it is a beautiful thing. So thank you guys so much. Hopefully this helps you see a better view of Feudum as well as the Queen's Army. Another reason I wanted to do the unboxing and get this copy from a friend in order to show it to you was mainly due to the fact that I put this one on my honorable mentions for 2018, and I hadn't done a video for it officially on the channel yet, even though I'd played it off camera. So I wanted to have something on the channel here that people can use as a reference point. And then of course you're going to want to do your research online on Board Game Geek, as well as through playthroughs you can find on YouTube to find out more. This might be something I end up doing as a playthrough in the future, but I can't make promises because this one's actually a pretty heavy endeavor to do so on camera. But we'll see how that pans out in the future. It might be something I'm able to work in. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope this helps. And as always, keep on rolling solo.